People of the YouTubes, what's going on? I'm Jake, and today we'll be reviewing a little software I like to call Dehancer. Let's go. But before we even talk about anything regarding Dehancer, I got a little disclaimer for you. Dehancer is not paying me in any way, nor are they sponsoring this video. The only thing I actually received from them was their plugin for free. Also, I did sign up for their affiliate program, which basically means I do get a small amount of commission if you guys do decide to go and purchase Dehancer using the links in the description of this video. All this to say, I have complete freedom to say whatever I want about this plugin. Also, keep in mind throughout this entire video that I'm reviewing this plugin from the perspective of somebody who's never shot film. So do with that information what you will. With that said, let's get into the review. So first of all, what is Dehancer? Dehancer is a plugin that you can get for a number of different Adobe products, Davinci Resolve 16, and Final Cut Pro. And it allows you to make adjustments to your image to give it more of a filmic style. They have film profiles, their own presets, and a handful of tools that you can use to adjust your film look. And that's basically Dehancer in a nutshell. Now let's jump into the software to see what this thing can do. This isn't a tutorial video, but I would like to show you guys how to access Dehancer within Lightroom. So basically, once you load your photos into Lightroom, you'll right click on whichever image you want to edit, go up to Edit In, and then select Edit in Dehancer. And then from here, you got a few options of whether or not you want to edit a copy or the original image. And we only have edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments available. I'm pretty sure that's because this is a demo version. So we're gonna select that, and it might take a few minutes, but you should eventually load into Dehancer. And this is what it looks like. What we're gonna do to start off is go over to profiles. And like I said, you have a number of different profiles to choose from within Dehancer. More specifically, you have 63 film profiles to choose from. And out of those 63, you can actually go through and click on the heart icon to favorite whichever ones you prefer the most. And that's exactly what I did prior to shooting this video. And some of my favorites are Ilford XP2 Super 400, that's a nice black and white one. Then you got Kodak Ektachrome E100, the 2017 version, Kodak Ektar 100, Kodak Gold 200, that one's actually pretty nice on this one. Kodak Portra 160, Kodak Portra 400, that's another nice looking one, Kodak Portra 800, Kodak Ultra Max 400, and I think that's all of them. But if I had to pick just one for this specific photo, I think I'd end up going with the Kodak Gold 200, which is just a nice solid all-around option. And I found that this specific film profile works for a lot of your images. And then from here, if I just want to apply a film profile, I can go over to OK, hit that, give it a second to load, and then here we are back in Lightroom with that film profile now added to the photo. And then once this happens, I normally go over here to the Lightroom features and make a few adjustments to the photo. But yeah, that's a photo I am pretty happy with. I like the film profile on it. Let's move on to another photo. Moving right along here, I chose this image of me in the forest. I think it'll go pretty well with some of the film profiles we have available. And looking through all the profiles, I think I like the Kodak Ektachrome E100 2017 the most. So we're gonna go with that one. Hit OK, get us back to Lightroom, make a few final adjustments here. We brighten it up just a touch again, and drop those highlights just a little bit. Lower them just a touch, raise the whites a little bit, give it a little bit of raise to the shadows, drop the blacks a little bit, and then I always like coming down to the tone curve, adding a nice S curve. It's always good. Give it a little bit of flavor there. Just a little bit of desaturation. Gotta throw in some clarity as well. And you know what? Might as well throw a nice little vignette around the whole thing as well. I'm happy with that. So yeah, that's a pretty good looking image right there. All right, so we've gone over the film profiles. Now let's jump over to the presets that they have available in Dehancer as well. So just like with the film profiles, you have a handful of presets available. Specifically, you have 24 presets available within Dehancer. And to be honest, I don't really care for a lot of the presets. But regardless, we'll still go through and try and find one that works with this image. And the reason I don't really care for a lot of these presets is because I think they went overboard with the adjustments. And they do give you the option over here to the right to make changes to the preset if you want to. but they don't have an amount slider like they do with Lightroom to make changes to the preset as a whole. I think if they added a feature similar to that, it'd really speed up the workflow within the software. But anyways, with all that aside, I did find a preset that I'm generally pretty happy with. It's the Fujichrome Velvia 50 plus 2383. Now what you could do is export it straight back to Lightroom and go from there. But what I'm gonna do is go through some of these options off to the right-hand side and make a few adjustments to change the look of this preset more to my liking. So the biggest issues I had with this preset was the amount of film grain and the vignette. So what I did was lower the amount of film grain from 20 down to 15, and then for the vignette, I just completely turned that off. Because what I'll end up doing is just adding my own vignette in Lightroom. So from there, we'll just go back into Lightroom, export this back into Lightroom, make our final adjustments right here, and right there, that is our final product. Pretty happy with it. The preset got us most of the way there. All I had to do was make a few final adjustments within Lightroom. And to be honest, I probably could have made some of those final changes within Dehancer, but personally, I find that it's easier to make those final touches to your image in Lightroom. Loading, 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 Senor Lodenstein. Okay, so now I'd like to jump over here to the right side and touch on a few of these effects. So in total, you have 10 different effects you can make adjustments to, but personally, my favorite ones are film grain, halation, bloom, and vignette. So starting with film grain, when you turn that on, it's obviously going to add some grain to your image, and you're probably wondering what's the difference between this film grain and the grain in Lightroom. Well, what I've heard is that the grain in Dehancer is closer to a film grain rather than the grain in Lightroom, which is more of a digital grain. And when looking at the film grain effect applied in Dehancer, it looks pretty high quality. It looks like it came out of a film camera, at least in my opinion. All right, so moving on, next up you have halation. And when you turn this one on, what you'll notice if you look in the high contrast areas, so if we go down to this lighthouse, you'll notice there's little red highlights around the edges of the dark parts of my image, or in other words, the high contrast parts of my image. So turning it on, you see that there's that highlight of red, and then turning it off, that red goes away. And from what I've heard, this is another effect that's very common when you're shooting with film. So if you're trying to achieve the film look, you might want to try out this effect. And of course, just like with the other effects, you can use the sliders to make adjustments. Moving on, the next sweet effect is bloom. And when you turn this effect on, what you should notice is that the brightest parts of your image kind of have a blooming effect. It's almost like the look you get when you put a mist filter over the front of your lens. It's kind of hard to describe. And then finally, you have vignette. I don't know why I said this is one of my favorites, because it's just like the vignette in Lightroom. Nothing special. So yeah, that's the gist of Dehancer, but don't go anywhere yet because I want to talk pros and cons. Starting with the pros. So first of all, you have a lot of film profiles to choose from. Like I said, you got 63, and you can go through there, pick your favorites, so you know which ones you use the most and you know which ones are going to be your go-tos. And it's pretty cool too, because I know there's a good amount of film profiles within Dehancer that actual film photographers shoot on. For example, in Dehancer, one of my favorites was the Kodak Gold 200, I'm pretty sure, and that is a pretty popular film, if I'm not mistaken. Moving on, pro number 2 is that you have a lot of tools. Like I said, you have 10 different effects you can choose from and make adjustments to within Dehancer. Of those 10, I'd probably only use 3 of them, film grain, halation, and bloom. Pro number 3, the setup process is pretty easy. At first, I thought it was gonna be super hard to set up and I wouldn't know what to do, but Dehancer's awesome and they send you a step-by-step setup guide when you download their software. And it's pretty easy to follow along with. Pro number 4, the plugin is very user-friendly. Now when you first load up Dehancer, it might look a little intimidating, but there's really not a whole lot you can do within the plugin. You have film profiles and presets to choose from, and then off to the right-hand side, you have all your effects you can make adjustments to as well. The interface is really easy to use, and it should take you almost no time to learn how to use it, as long as you've used Lightroom, which I'm assuming a lot of you already have. All right, that's it for pros. Let's jump into the cons. Number 1, there's no preset intensity slider. Now I mentioned this earlier, I called it the amount slider, but preset intensity, preset amount, whatever you want to call it, they don't have a slider available. And once again, if you did have a slider like that in Dehancer, I think it'd really speed up your workflow. Because what you could do is pick a preset that you like, and then instead of going over to the effects column, you could just grab that intensity slider, maybe knock it down a little bit, or bring it up a little bit, whatever you prefer, and then you're all set. You don't have to make any specific adjustments, you just play around with that intensity slider. Con number 2, the presets are very intense. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the intensity slider idea. Because if you did have that intensity slider, you wouldn't have to worry about how intense the presets are. But instead you'll have to pick a preset that you like and then go over to the effects column and then find out which effects are gonna do what, make those changes to get your desired look. And that's just annoying and time consuming. And con number 3, you can only edit one photo at a time. Now I'm not 100% sure this is true, but I haven't been able to find out how to import more than one image at a time, which again kind of comes back to the workflow issue. If you could import more than one photo at a time, it'd really speed up your workflow. But again, I'm not sure if you just can't do this or if I don't know how to do this. So Dehancer's a pretty cool plugin. It's definitely tailored toward film photographers and videographers. It's got a lot of cool film profiles, some decent presets, and a handful of pretty sweet effects. But there's a few things that it could use, like a preset intensity slider and the ability to import more than one photo at a time. If they could fix these problems, I think it'd be even sweeter than it already is. All right, that's all I got on Dehancer. If you guys want to check it out, I'll have links in the description down below. Also, I completely forgot to mention that if you guys are interested in buying Dehancer, they gave me a promo code to gift all of you guys. So if you want 10% off your purchase of Dehancer, use the promo code JAKE, that's capital J-A-K-E, for 10% off. Pretty cool, I've never had a promo code before. Thanks for watching, and always remember to capture great moments. Peace.